Hello, my science lovers. We have This Week in BS. We are going to talk about all things bees. We're going to talk about pesticides, herbicides, what harms the bees, how we can help the bees. I have the really awesome Insects Are Cool with me. She loves all of the things to do with insects. And so we're going to default to her awesome knowledge and have a chat about bees. We'll be with you shortly. Approximate wait time is about a minute. Please enjoy these awesome tunes. So I do have a new patron video with my digital analog of myself. So that'll be pretty interesting. So I'm going to take a moment to thank all of my patrons with my new digital representation of ScientistMel. So have a look.
I want to thank my amazing patrons, my science lovers, Patrick, Jennifer, Dragnot, Bo, Sarah, Ray, Shane, Rhetoric, Dirk, Graham, Zachary, Daniel, and then my minions, Keith, Carl, Pallas, Cersei, Stephen F., Stephen B., Duke, Chris, Richard, Neil, Oswaldo, Mark, Brian, then my officers, Tony, Maddie, Doc Fearsome, my amazing mutants, Jonas and Winkle, and my misfit, David. Thank you so much for all of your help. It means the world to me.
Alrighty. Huh? Hey guys, what's up? How you doing? What's up? So, with me is the amazing Insects Are Cool. This is the first time she's been on my show This Week in BS. So, please introduce yourself, what you like, what you do. Tell us about your channel. Go.
Okay. Obviously, I like insects. Am I closer there?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I have a channel called Insects Are Cool because insects are cool. I really like insects. I mean, I have a butterfly necklace right here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I really like insects, and so I just talk about them on my channel.
Okay. So just go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. They're mostly like educational based.
Okay. So it looks like you're a fan of pollinators.
Mm-hmm.
You got butterflies, and it looks like you have quite a collection behind you. What are the main types of species? Is it mostly like butterflies and moths and things like that behind you?
It's pretty much just random things. I think it's mostly random, but it's probably mostly beetles. But there's a lot of beetles.
It's a lot of beetles?
Yeah. But that's just because the beetles are the most common insects.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The beetles will probably outlive us, and we don't mean... Unless have you named any of them George, Paul, or Ringo? Or John? Or any of those beetles?
No, I haven't named any of them. I don't name my dead insects.
Ah, okay. All right, so insects are amazing. Insects are cool. So today we are going to talk about all things related to bees, because bees are all in the news, especially with all the information that's coming out about pesticides and herbicides. So hey Nana, so let me say hi to some people out there. Hey Nana, how you doing? Nana is one of my patrons, and I will fix the thing that you said about the video. So apologies for that. It's with those little digital representations of myself that I do. I can only do 30-second videos at a time. I don't think anybody could differentiate anything that you were saying in regard to your name. So apologies in advance for that. I have lots of different Stevens. And I have lots of different other names in there. I know you're not one of the Stevens. So, anywho, I just say people's first names so I don't dox them. Because I don't want to dox anybody. So I just say the first names, and a lot of the first names. I have 31 patrons now, guys. 31. Isn't that amazing? And David is my very first, misfit of science with a $100 pledge every month, which is absolutely amazing. So I'm really excited about that. So let's talk a bit about bees. Bees are pollinators. So tell us, what do you know about bees? Give us a little bit of your information about pollinators in general, and what makes bees particularly awesome at that.
Okay, let me think. So like almonds. I think almonds are pollinated almost entirely by bees. So if bees go away, we'll lose almonds too. First of all.
We'll lose almonds, so they pollinate almonds?
Yeah.
Oh, well, crap. I like my almond milk, and I like my almond powdered. I like powdered almond stuff. Okay, so I know we'll lose almonds. We'll lose various types of vegetables and fruits as well.
Yeah.
So we've got, we know that the bees are they currently on the extinction list? I believe they are. They're on the danger of endangered species list.
I know, like they're not doing well.
Yeah.
Mostly because of like colony collapse disorder.
So I tried almost milk. Oh my goodness. Let's see. So let me see. I think bees are currently on the endangered list, but recently, if I'm not mistaken, the current administration removed them. Yeah. So April. So disappearing bumblebee species under threat of extinction. This comes to us from York University, and this was just published recently, April 18th, 2019, in Science Daily. The American bumblebee. So it's commonly seen buzzing around southern Ontario, is critically endangered according to a new study found that the native North American species Bombus pennsylvanicus is facing imminent extinction from Canada, considered the highest and at most at-risk classification before extinction. So that happened to be published in the Journal of Insect Conservation. That particular article was. The species is at risk of extinction, and it's currently not protected in any way despite the drastic decline. And that comes from Assistant Professor Sheila Kalla. She's an expert in bees and endangered species in the Faculty of Environmental Studies, that particular university. So this is what the researchers found, that the American bumblebee's area of occurrence has decreased by about 70%, and its relative abundance fell by 89% from 2007 to 2016, compared to over the span of 100 years from 1907 to 2006. So it has reduced its overall range. So this is getting pretty scary. And this is at York University with a study that they've done. So this is getting pretty scary because we lose our bees, we're going to lose our vegetables, we're going to lose our fruits, we're going to lose honey. So let's talk a bit about what's actually affecting bees right now. Various pesticides and various, a couple of herbicides, are. So you and I had discussed a bit about one particular pesticide that's harmful to bees, and it's actually a derivative of nicotine, from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's called neonicotinoids.
Neonicotinoids. Okay, so what do you know about that particular pesticide and what it's actually doing?
Okay, let me think. So it's actually banned in Europe, I think, but you're still allowed to use it in the United States and in Canada.
Okay.
Let me think. I read an article recently that said that like even small amounts of the neonicotinoids that it'll impair the bees, insects in general, I think. It'll impair their ability to like their ability to detect predators, I think. and to fly away and stuff like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, from what I can see, and I actually used to study under a professor, and I worked a bit, and we used to work trying to map the genome of the ladybug. He was often consulted because he worked primarily in genetics. A lot of people don't understand, particularly pesticides and herbicides. They work exclusively with the presence of a particular gene. And so, it wasn't known in early on about neonicotinoids, from what I can see. This was a fairly new discovery just a couple years ago, in 2017. So, and these are, it says that these particular pesticides also kill bees and hurt their ability to reproduce. So there were 2 large-scale studies that were done a couple of years ago that examined honeybees in Canada, and they looked at 3 bee species in the UK, Germany, and Hungary. Now, these were really, really large studies. Well, there were some studies in the past that looks like they had connected neonicotinoids to bee pesticides, and a few bee deaths in the past. They didn't examine how much pesticide is needed to harm the bees or how long the exposure would take. Now, I've pulled this up off of pbs.org. They kind of went through a little bit of that. And with the neonicotinoids, it doesn't obliterate bee colonies right away. From what it looks like, it just kills them over an extended period of time, which is probably why it didn't just pop up, quickly. That they didn't quite make the connection for a while. So that's kind of like one of those things. But it's good that they've sorted this out. But this is still legal in the U.S., you said?
Yeah, you still use neonicotinoids in the U.S.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, that really sucks. And given that the current head of the EPA does not believe in climate change, I can't imagine how that's going to be reversed right now, given that the rollbacks that they're having on just standard clean water type of things, where please don't dump waste into freshwater resources type of things. So this is pretty jarring and upsetting. Oh goodness. Yeah, so it makes me nuts because I do like bees. And when I used to teach biology in high school, kids were always interested in insects and arachnids. And so I told them it was absolutely fine to bring me a bug, but I would never allow them to bring me pollinators to euthanize in class and look under a microscope. I told them, if you ever bring me a butterfly or a moth or a bee.
Over there.
Yeah.
I don't have Mark over there. I have Mark.
Yeah. I was like, did you ever bring me any of those things? Because I will just, Yeah, there are. Okay, so Mike grins sheepishly, says there are lots of bees that aren't European honeybees. That's true. You have carpenter bees. You have all kinds of different types of bees. But what do you think makes the honeybees particularly more in the forefront than carpenter bees or other bees? What do you think?
Let me think. It depends on let me think. Sorry. So they're solitary bees.
Mm-hmm.
That's they don't make I don't think they make a hive or anything. So
okay.
So that's one thing. Honeybees will actually make a hive.
Right.
I think some bees don't actually. I think some. I'm not sure that some of them might. I think some of them don't sting actually.
Okay.
There are some bee species that don't sting, I think.
Yeah, I think there are some bees that don't sting, and there are other bees that do sting, and their sting is horrible. I once stepped on a bee and my foot turned purple. It was not fun. And then a wasp stung me on the other foot the next day. That was a fun summer. So yes.
Yeah, I got stung by wasps when I was around 11 years old, and actually I was volunteering at the thing I'm on in college. It's called the Insect Student Adventure, and at the Insect Student Adventure, I just happened to get stung by a bee.
Well, isn't that the way it goes? So let's talk a bit more, okay? Because we're going to talk about other ways that pesticides and herbicides. There are some herbicides that are affecting bees. So we know that the neonicotinoids are one particular pesticide that does actually affect bee populations, and it's a long-term thing. It's not instantaneous. Another thing that we're talking about when we're dealing with bees, there are various types of herbicides that actually kind of mess with bees a little bit. One is glyphosate, and glyphosate has been in the news an awful lot for the fact that there's people who think it causes cancer. And so I actually had an episode of my show where we break down the science. There's loads of science and studies associated with glyphosate that don't show that there's any connection for cancer. And so a lot of people tend to get confused and conflate what legal evidence you need to prove a thing has happened. And it doesn't even have to prove that it's happened. It only has to tip the scale over that, well, this one added thing may have contributed to the cancer. So they tend to err on the side of caution. But even then, the evidence for that was weak. There's more evidence, though, that comes out about it hurting bees. And so glyphosate seems to weaken bees by messing with their microbiomes. So they linked the plight. So some researchers have, previous research has linked what's gone on with bees and common pesticides with the neonicotinoids that were an issue. But now they're kind of looking at glyphosate as messing with the healthy bacteria in bee guts. So they're looking at the possibility that glyphosate is altering the microbiome, the bacteria inside the stomachs of bees, which could be a problem. So even though it's not specified to kill bees, because it usually pesticides and herbicides, they're meant they only affect certain organisms that have the expression of a particular gene. If you don't have expression or that gene in general, it's not going to hurt you. But for whatever reason, it's affecting bacteria in the stomachs of bees. So wow. So what they did is they took to look at the bee microbiome for this particular study. They took 2,000 honeybees from hives over at the University of Texas campus and fed them either a low dose of glyphosate, a high dose, or glyphosate-free syrup. So both dosages approximated amounts commonly sprayed in people's yards, agricultural fields, and roadsides. They then released the bees and then sampled 15 from each group before and after 3 days back in their hive. Now, in the particular bees that were sampled, in some gut bacteria, the Giamella apicola actually increased in number. Others, like Snodgrassella alvi, those decreased. But the overall bacteria count decreased for both exposed groups of bees. Now, this is only statistically significant for the group that was exposed to the lower dose. The larger dose, they didn't really see a lot of things going on. But this is new research that glyphosate is kind of affecting bees down on the bacterial level. But there has been some previous research to show that glyphosate can disrupt bees' navigational abilities as well. So bees are getting harmed a little bit with the navigation things, and it's affecting their gut microbiome. Do you know anything about the bacterial makeup inside of like the guts of bees and what that could do over time?
Insect guts are like I kind of the only thing I can think of is like the pH. I think the insect guts have a higher pH. I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I can really think of. Sorry.
Right. Oh, no, it's okay. So a lot of times when you're dealing with, from what I've seen when it comes to gut bacteria, it will probably affect digestion and maybe their ability to eat certain things. But the thing is those particular, we know that natural bacteria that's inside any living thing usually helps fight off the infection and actually help to increase digestion. So maybe these bees are becoming more susceptible to infection from the introduction of glyphosate in a particular area. So Roundup may not cause cancer, but it seems to really be affecting bees, which is still a problem. So, oh goodness. So let's see. So I was thinking a little bit more about some of this. Let's talk for a second. There's one more herbicide that actually affects bees, but not in a direct sense. Dicamba. Okay, dicamba is a type of pesticide that's used primarily in soy farming. And so the EPA was warned years ago that dicamba could drift off of fields and kill weeds that are vital to honeybees. Now what we're seeing is these particular types of consequences, they're kind of rippling down through the food system. In this regard, dicamba, that particular herbicide, has already destroyed millions of dollars worth of the non-genetically modified soybeans and specialty crops. So this particular herbicide was made to just kill off stuff that's not a genetically modified soybean crop. But since it can drift off, it's managed to kill off lots of other things, including the different types of weeds that bees actually use to help, pollinate and generate honey. So this is pretty scary stuff. This is pretty scary stuff and what's going on. And I think it's still currently used. So the agency, EPA, registered dicamba in 2016 despite the warning. So even though the EPA was told 3 years ago that this could be a problem, it still registered it as being absolutely fine. And as far as I know, it is still around. And it's also affecting honey crops at this point. I'm trying to not go on a massive freaking rant about the loss of bees and what's going on with that. Do you have anything to add about any of that? Any thoughts on that?
About like pesticides and stuff?
Pesticides and the herbicides and how it's affecting bees?
Not really. I think that's all I can say.
Okay. I'm trying to verify if they were removed from the endangered species list by the current administrator.
Actually, I was looking at that. Here, I'm
checking on Snopes.
Okay, it says in 2019, the Western honey is on the IUCN red list of endangered species due to pressures from invasive species and ecosystem changes.
Oh, okay.
So it's a threatened species on the IUCN.
Okay. Okay. Well, it seems like it's still on, so that's good. So let's kind of transition to what are things that people can do, because we've talked about the awful things that are happening with bees and different. That's my dog Frodo. So we've talked about the different awful things associated with pesticides and herbicides. And how it's affecting bees and it's how affecting their populations. What is it actually doing to them? What are some things that we can do to kind of boost and help the bee population? Do you have any thoughts?
There's this honeybee charity that I like. called the Honeybee Conservancy. I'll put a link in the chat.
Okay.
So,
The Honeybee Conservancy.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, but yeah, I'm not allowed to post the link.
Awesome. So yeah, the Honeybee Conservancy I hear is a very good, reputable
I didn't think I'm allowed
organization.
to post the link.
Okay, I'll have to find you. I'll find you and give you a wrench. Um,
Okay.
so some things that we can do that I looked up. So I went through and I was looking at various things. I'm like, okay, what are the different things that we can do
Uh,
to kind of help out? Huh?
but we already mentioned like pesticides and stuff. Just don't use as much pesticides and insecticides.
Yes, don't use pesticides. Okay, you have been wrenched.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so one thing, don't use pesticides and don't use herbicides. If you don't need them, don't use them. Um, I know I use some weed killer, but that's only in like right around my house. I don't use it in my yard. I don't, and I live on almost 2 acres, so I don't use weed killer in my yard at all. I let weeds grow in my actual lawn part. So that's one thing you can do. Keep in mind that pesticides still can drift off into other parts, so it can still, the wind can carry it. So that's one thing you got to kind of keep in mind and be careful about. Um, is there like an easy way to kind of, I've looked online at different things, and there's different kind of, you can actually be a beekeeper pretty easily. There's really easy setup to where you never actually remove any beeswax. You just have the hive, and it's like a crank and turn kind of thing where you can collect your honey. So, what are those called?
Are you talking about the Langstroth hive?
The what?
The Langstroth hive? Hive?
I think so. I think that's one of, yeah, that's one of the hives that I've used.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, not that I've used, that I've seen. I would
Mm-hmm.
like to actually, have my own hive. That would be great. But you can buy some already set up to where all you have to do is just set it out there, and then every once in a while you go and you crank your thing, you turn the knob, and the honey comes out. It's pretty awesome.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's what I'm thinking of for not.
It's okay. So some other ways that you can help bees. Um, you can essentially, here's one thing that you can do. Outside of just not using pesticides and herbicides, that's important. You can get a little beehive. Another thing is to find out which plants are native in your area and just plant them. Just go native. I have like a whole section in my backyard. Part of it's wooded. And so what I'm thinking about doing is just going and planting some wildflowers just near that area, like a little wildflower garden. It doesn't have to be super exotic, but different wildflowers that are native in your area, you can just have and I think you can get them pretty easily at any DIY store. Just walk in and ask the people in the garden center, what are like your wildflower things. They usually have it rolled up in a mat already seeded, and all you got to do is just kind of pull up a bit of the ground and roll the mat out and water it down, and then just let it sit. So natural wildflowers are really, really good. It's also important to have blooms year round, because sometimes, especially spring, summer, and fall, not so much in the winter, but if you have blooming plants throughout the year. So that, and you can get perennials, all kinds of different perennials just have little, like blooming flowers. You have some that only bloom in the spring, some that bloom in the summer, and some that bloom in the fall. So if you can kind of set it up, and I try to do that with my gardens, try to set it up to where I have plants that are blooming at every single season. This one goes here, these pop up. So if you do that, that's also very, very helpful. So do you have anything to add so far?
I just checked, and milkweed. Milkweed is generally planted to help monarchs, but I think you
Mm-hmm.
also use milkweeds for bees too. I think bees use milkweed also.
Mm-hmm. I think I saw that. Yes.
Mhm.
And it's also good. Milkweed is also good for the monarch butterfly,
Mhm.
from what
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen.
that's what I said.
Okay, so monarch butterflies, bees, other pollinators. So let's see. The queen. God save the queen.
Mhm.
We could sing that song right now for like the bees. I don't think that will help. They'll be like, those are nice tunes. Doesn't do so much for our species right now, but thanks for the song, right? Um, so if you're in an area for brand new queens that are growing up to be super queens, um, you can get spring blooming flowers, shrubs, and trees. Now, bumblebees, unlike honeybees, have an annual cycle. New queens are born in the fall. So after all the breeding, they kind of find a place to kind of chill and sleep for the winter. So when the insects emerge in the spring, they need lots of nectar and pollen sources, or they can't really kind of get a good foundation for their colonies. So be certain to have lots of spring blooming flowers to kind of help out new colonies that are trying to get established. Let me catch up on the chat really quick. We've just been talking about the bees, the birds and the bees, the flowers and the trees. So, hey, Andy, what's up? Jimmy's here. Brian, Nana.
Hey everyone.
Hello. Let's see. Russian sage. Andy's got Russian sage. That's probably smells really nice outside. Let's see. Raise mason bees. No sting, no honey, great pollinators. Fantastic. Let's see. Yeah, like Thanos is snapping. A pandemic would be at least get rid of a lot of the anti-vaxxers. Wow, yeah. Well, I was mowing the lawn last weekend. There was there were so nice looking purple flowers. I dug all of them out and transplanted them to a corner. It looks nice. Well, that's good. You transplanted them. That's cool. See, I probably missed the sulfur butterflies the most when I was a kid. There were clouds of them. Not never see, but one every 2 years. Oh, okay. So, it's really important to kind of just to keep in perspective. You don't have to do much in order to kind of help bees out. If you're a person who's a gardener that is all about mulch, a little bit of bare ground is okay. So, a lot of species of bees tend to be very solitary. And about 70% of them will dig a nest in the ground. So if you got mulch there, it's kind of hard and it kind of gets in the way of them trying to dig their little nests. So leaving some bare ground is all right. So another thing you do, we kind of mentioned this before about getting a hive space. What you can do is essentially build, and this is called a bee block or a bee hotel. You can build a little bee hotel. So all you got to do is you could build one yourself, or you could drill holes of varying sizes into a dead tree. It's kind of like making a birdhouse, except for bees. So if the dead tree is still standing, you can just go and drill some holes in, like bigger holes, smaller holes, medium-sized holes, tiny holes, just all kinds of different size. And that is if our amazing beetle friends haven't already done that for you, because they like to dig into things. This offers a habitat to lots of different bees, and they like to nest in holes that are already made. So go find a dead tree and drill some holes in it. That's pretty easy. All right. So do any of you guys in the chat like to grow your own fruits and vegetables and stuff? I don't know if you guys do or not. What do you like to grow your own fruits and vegetables, Miss Insects?
I don't think of. No, I don't grow anything. At least right now, maybe later.
Maybe later. Well, from my understanding is if you make a little border of blooming flowers, like native wildflowers, around your vegetable or your fruit garden, that actually encourages the bees to not only pollinate your garden, but it also gives them another opportunity to kind of gain pollen to make their own honey, and it will also attract other pollinators such as wasps and hoverflies that can control different types of pests that you might have on your garden. So that's kind of like a natural pesticide that you can use instead of all of that other stuff. Spraying it on things, yeah, it kind of helps. It kind of helps. Jimmy says my mom grows her own veggies. Tell her to plant native wildflowers around it, and that'll help with the pollinators and stuff like that. Too many squirrels and other rodents around. Oh, boo. Boo, boo. And then as Miss Insects, I'm going to call you Miss Insects.
Okay.
That's okay. As she mentioned before, you can get involved with, she put a link into the chat over the bee conservatory. You can get involved and see what's going on. I also know different divisions of the master gardeners. So there's master gardeners that are across the U.S. Sometimes they have lots of information on what natural wildflowers are in your area. They also usually have some person that's in charge of all of the different animals that you can kind of attract to your yard and what you can do. My mother is actually a master gardener, and she actually, her backyard is considered, she has a certification, her backyard is a bird sanctuary. So her backyard is a legit bird sanctuary, just based on all of the different factors that she has for plants and water and food sources and things like that. Andy grows tomatoes, peppers, viners of all sorts, berries galore, peas, beans, you name it. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, get you some flowering wildflowers as a border around it to help encourage pollinators. I know you got some dogs, Andy. Your dogs, don't let them eat the bees. So check in your area and see if you have any master gardeners. They offer free education on what grows best in your yard. And in addition to that, they usually have somebody there that can kind of help you out on how to boost various populations of different insects as well as animals. I've thought about maybe trying to do a little bat house. I bought a bat house, but I haven't put it in my backyard yet for brown bats. So that's pretty cool. So my mother used to be president of the Master Gardeners here, and they work very closely with Habitat for Humanity. And they'll go through and get free plants from local DIY stores to plant into the gardens of the houses for people for Habitat for Humanity. So they do a lot of good work. You should check them out. Do you have anything to add, Miss Insects?
No, that's it. Do you want to start talking about bee myths?
Yeah, we can talk about bee myths now. We got all the education out of the way. Let's talk about all the bee myths. Go for it.
Okay, so there are, I guess one thing I can mention is that there's no king bee. There's no king bee. There's drones, workers, and queens. Workers and queens are female. The drone is male, but there's no king bee.
Yep. So there's no king bee. Just the queen. It's good to be the queen.
Yeah. Okay. I can also mention that only females can sting. Males can't sting.
Okay. So males don't have a stinger. Got it.
Let's see what else is there. There's probably more. I just can't think of it on the top of my head.
So different bee myths. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull some up. You know, what I could do is I could find some bee trivia and see if you get it right.
I like that.
I'd put you on the spot if I did that. All right. So
Okay with that.
I won't do that to you. All right. So here's 11 things. Okay. So I've pulled this up on noble.org. It's a research institute. 11 things people believe about bees that aren't true. All bees sting. Well, we've learned that's not the case. Just the lady bees. All right, what about myth number 2? Honeybees can sting their victim repeatedly.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Bees. Okay, so worker bees. Worker bees can sting you only once. However, the queen bee is actually different. She can actually sting she can sting however much she wants. Although she usually only uses it against other queen bees.
Oh, okay, so she only stings other queen bees?
Yeah.
Wow, that's some fighting right there.
Yeah.
That's like WrestleMania between Queen A and Queen B. Do they actually fight for control of the hive, or is that they do?
They do.
Wow.
Okay. Say there's Queen Bee and say there's a queen in the chamber in one of the chambers that it's developing. So sometimes actually kill the queen, so it doesn't the queen larvae, so they doesn't develop.
Right. Oh goodness. Okay. That's pretty ruthless. Some people think wasps are bees.
No.
They look at them and they think, oh, it's a bee. No, that's a wasp. That's one of the wasps.
So sometimes it can be hard to tell. You don't really know.
Yeah. Well, one thing to note is that wasps are carnivores and bees are vegetarians. So, while some can be very aggressive, especially if you mess with their nest, bees tend to usually not be aggressive. Now, Africanized bees, though, they are mean. They're mean. They're really, really mean. All right, so another myth. You can avoid bee stings by spraying the nest with water.
Good dude.
Water won't do a thing to the bee's nest, guys.
Fingers.
All you're going to do is piss them off. Just make them mad. Oh, gosh. Man, so, all right. All bees produce honey. That's another myth. No. Carpenter bees, I always am scared of those because I have a house and I'm like, oh, Lord. If I get me some carpenter bees, they're going to be drilling holes in my house and all that. Ugh. No. All right, so another myth. Bees are hard workers.
The drones are lazy.
The drones are lazy.
the male bees are lazy. the men are lazy. They don't do anything, they're just maids.
Okay, so what I'm reading is females of the solitary bee species may only work for a couple of weeks too. So they might work for a few weeks and then take a while off, take a vacay, Oh goodness. Adult bees live a long time. That's another myth. What do you think?
I'm trying to remember how long queen bee lives.
All right. What I'm seeing, solitary bees live only a few weeks, just enough to mate and have babies. And
queens will live longer though. They'll live over a year sometimes.
That's exactly right. Ding, ding, ding. Bumblebee queens live up to 1 year, and honeybee queens can live up to 4 years. Pee on the bee's nest to neutralize their venom. Oh my goodness. We can't pee on the bees to neutralize their venom. I don't think that's going to work.
Really?
I think somebody's saying that, being silly, kind of like with the jellyfish.
Oh, I see that. Pee on the bees nest to neutralize their venom.
If a bee stings you, have your friend pee on you. Please videotape that and put it on the internet and use that so I can break that apart next week on This Week in BS. Friend pees on other friend who has suffered a bee sting.
I think you should watch out too, Barley.
Oh my goodness. All right, most bees live in hives. That's another myth.
I said earlier. So
Yep.
not all bees live in hives.
Only social bees live in hives.
Hmm.
And according to what I'm seeing here, 10% of bee species are social, and only a small percentage of them build hives. So, not that many. It says that most bees are solitary, and they tunnel in the ground to build their nests and into tree trunks. All right. If you rid your lawn of dandelions and flowers, it keeps bees away. What do you think?
They use other plants.
I guess. I mean, but bees aren't going to go away. They still have bee scouts that
Hmm.
fly around looking for all the new blooms, right? All right. Sealing up the hole in the wall where bees are nesting will kill the bees inside. No. No, no. If you seal up the entrance to a bee nest, you risk angering them. They may burrow into unwanted places, such as the interior of your house. Bees have been known to tunnel through wood and drywall. Carpenter bees, particularly. Your best bet is to contact your local bee professionals if you have a bee nest in your house. Oh my goodness. All right. So just as an aside, for like a little bit of facts. Usually in a bee colony, it consists of about 20,000 to 60,000 honeybees and one queen. Worker honeybees are female, as Miss Insects has told us. The queen bee can live up to 5 years, and her role is to fill the hive with eggs. Lots and lots of eggs. See, I don't know that I'd want to be a queen bee if I had to lay eggs all day.
Yeah. Someone asked me before, like, what kind of insect that would be, and at first I was like queen bee, but then I thought I would be really
Yeah.
busy.
You're like, really? Maybe not so much.
Queen bee is really good. Is a really a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Ew. Yeah. Not a great idea, but that's okay. I don't necessarily want to be sitting around laying eggs all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to
Probably
be
the one be
awkward.
if even the drones, like, yeah, even though they're kind of lazy and stuff, like, actually you I try to remember. I think male bees actually did die after they get mated.
I think so. Let's look that up. Male bees die after mating. Let's see when male bees die. Are they only good for the sex? Huh. All right. Male honeybees are only able to mate 7 to 10 times during a mating flight, and after mating, a drone dies quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So they have their fun 7 to 10 times, and then it's over. So they're just boy toys. So
Like, don't be a drone either.
oh goodness. So the apparently what happens is when the male bees mate with the queen, they will take turns, and then the next male honeybee has to remove the previous endophallus that they lose after ejaculation. So male honeybees, so they go in, they remove the endophallus, and then they go to town, and then that one pops off. And then the next male bee comes, removes the endophallus, and then goes to town. Then that one pops off. So that is a severely detachable penis right there. So the endophallus. So it's like, oh, I lost one there. So there you go. But after mating, and so the drone dies quickly, as his abdomen rips open when the endophallus is removed. So that's a pretty horrible way to go. Geez Louise. So you get your guts ripped open after you have sex. That sounds like a horror film.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounds like a horror film. You have sex with this queen, and then she just rips off your penis and takes out your guts. So, next! And you're like, me! And the next one shows up. I get to sleep with the queen. Oh, there goes my penis and my guts are on the floor. I guess I'm dying now. So Bee's life, why can't that be a film? But I don't know. That would be pretty jarring, and I don't know that I'd really want to watch that. Oh my gosh. Just did it all for the nookie and died. So you could take the cookie and rip it off his Now we got Limp Biscuit in the head.
And now think about it, in the bug's life, you did see other insects. There's grasshoppers, there's a ladybug, walking insect, and so on, but you never see a bee. I don't think there's a bee in bug's life.
Oh, Andy, you funny. It's BDSM. Oh my goodness. But that's like a hard limit, don't you think? I'm sorry, you can't rip off my penis and take out my guts. That's not something we would see amongst humans. But that was a good joke, Andy.
Oh, the derp space. You remind me of my ex.
And yet the male bee does it anyway. Yes. He's like, I get to mate with the queen. Yay, I shall die happy. It's just they fall on their swords, I guess, so to speak. Golly. Is it just like would be the climax to end all climaxes, literally. Yeah. Go into the light, bee friends. Oh my goodness. Sounds like the queen is the real slave. Kind of does, yeah.
Praying mantis.
Praying mantis, yeah.
Yeah, not a mentioned praying mantis. That's one too. There's also black widows. It's their mates.
Yeah.
Probably not being dead to be insects at all.
It's a tough life being the insects. Good gravy. I didn't even realize that that's how bees mated. They just rip off their stuff and guts and everything. It's just, Lord, can you imagine? Could we make a horror film called If People Mated Like Insects? And just
Oh, jeez. Oh my
Hi,
God.
my name is
I can
Mantis.
do that now.
You can just call me Mantis, praying mantis. What's up, baby? I know you're gonna eat my head later, but it's all right. I have lived for this very moment. Fantastic. It's just like I wonder it's got to be consensual because it's still around. Has any of the males actually fought back? I just wonder. And what are there any drones that are like, yeah, I don't want to have my phallus ripped off and my guts. I've seen what she does to bees, the male bees. I've seen it. Y'all don't want to go in there. But it's the queen, Is there ever like a bee revolution? So, it's just the natural instinct just overcome them to go and just, oh, Lord. Oh, at least I don't have to deal with duck rape. Oh, my God. Freaking ducks. That episode I did on ducks, that was disturbing. Ducks are horrible to each other. Tree frogs aren't that great either. God, tree frogs. Gang raping. That's what they do. They gang rape. Tree frogs do. They're nearly as bad as ducks. Nearly as bad as ducks. Pretty close, but nearly as bad. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. But yeah, I'm sure that movie has already been made. You sure, Jimmy? Have you watched it? You not sharing links? Oh, goodness. So, was there, I wonder, is there going to be a bee revolution where the male drones are like, we're not going to sleep with the queen anymore. We know what she does. Gerald went in there and he never came out. He never came out. And he's gone. Who I'm going to sit around drinking honey pints with tonight? After a long day of doing nothing. Oh my goodness. We're reaching up on at close to 7 p.m. Let me scroll back through. I know we've been talking a bit with the chat. If you have any questions, man, toss this one.
Other questions?
Okay. Any other questions? I love tree frogs, and I will never look at them the same way again. You should watch Planet Earth and listen to David Attenborough talk about how the tree frogs mate. It's just, perhaps I'll throw that in the poll, so you guys can learn about how horrible trees and frogs are to each other in the seasonal forests. You know. Oh goodness. Anything, yeah. Dolphins are rapey too. Animals are so rapey. They really are. They just. You get oddly uncomfortable. You just sit there and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of do wonder, is there consent involved? Because I'm really big on consent, and I'm like, what is bee consent like? You know, and what is that like? Bee consent or frog consent or duck consent? We know ducks evolved their own vaginas, fake vaginas, because duck rape was a thing. I wonder, is there some kind of evolutionary thing that's established with bees in order to deal with the fact they have their phalluses ripped off? Do they have a fake phallus? Maybe they don't want to sleep with the queen, so they have a fake phallus that falls off. That's what I think would be the response to that on a biological basis. Does anyone have a bee onesie? If you're curious, I'm sorry.
I don't have a bee onesie, but I do have a ladybug costume and also a butterfly costume too.
Butterfly and ladybug costume. That's awesome. I don't have a bee onesie. There is a series, if you're curious about how animals mate, you can check it out. It's called Green Porno. It's weird. It has Isabella Rossellini. It was sponsored by the Independent Film Channel. You can check out their stuff and see how different animals, including various types of insects, mate, coincidentally. So you can check that out. So I'm going to end it here and say thank you so much to Insects Are Cool. Check out her channel. I'm going to update the description to where you can click on it and then subscribe to her stuff. If you like what we do here, like, share, and subscribe. Every Thursday night, 6 p.m. Central Time, I have This Week in BS. And on Saturdays, we have Saturday Morning Science with the Science Of. And I'm currently working to have another episode of Spirited Science. So hopefully that will be up soon. So this was a lot of fun. You guys are awesome. Any last thoughts, Miss Insects?
Not right now.
Not right now? Well,
thank you for having me. Sorry, thank you for having me on.
Oh, no problem. It was awesome having you on here. So I hope you had fun. I certainly did, and I learned a lot about bees. You know, I learned some things I didn't know, so that's always a plus for me.
Yeah, you learned how they mate.
And I'm going to ask Nana, are you okay for me to play the video again? Of the patrons. I made that just today, but I can change it. ASAP. But I do like to thank my patrons and their awesomeness. And my new Misfit of Science. We got Misfits of Science, and we've got, which is David, my first $100 patron. Oh my gosh. And Andy's in the chat. Andy did a super chat last week, which is amazing. And he's sending me a new computer. So the people who help me do my work and help support me in what I do, they mean the world to me. You really do. And you help me keep doing what I'm doing to educate the population in all of the different ways that we can do that. So, thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Miss Insects. I want to say Miss Insects Are Cool. Coolio Insects. Whatever you like. I like calling you Miss Insects because I think that's neat. So, it'll be really awesome. So, I'm going to play my patron video if you're okay with that. I don't think anybody knows what your real name is. So, if that's all right. I want to get consent because I'm all about consent. If that's okay.
Oh, she's got that.
All right, it's okay. I got the thumbs up. So this is a digital representation of myself. It's a brand new app that I have that I'm able to use to communicate science in another way. So thank you for that. Thank you guys for being here. So I'm going to show the outro, and then I'm going to show my patron video, then the outro, and then I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Sending squishy science hugs. Bye.
I want to thank my amazing patrons, my science lovers, Patrick, Jennifer, Dragnot, Bo, Sarah, Ray, Shane, Rhetoric, Dirk, Graham, Zachary, Daniel, and then my minions, Keith, Carl, Pallas, Cersei, Stephen F., Stephen B., Duke, Chris, Richard, Neil, Oswaldo, Mark, Brian, then my officers, Tony, Maddie, Doc Fearsome, my amazing mutants, Jonas and Winkle, and my misfit, David. Thank you so much for all of your help. It means the world to me.